Well, I guess this isn't exactly a micro driver, but it isn't one of those over-the-year designs either, so this is just a standard bullet style earphone, I guess. Yeah, this is gonna be the Jade Audio JD3. If you don't know, then Jade Audio is basically a spin-off from the likes of Fiio, and they try to capture the market segment which Fiio had sort of left behind with their modern lineups, and that is the budget market. And their budget offering is gonna be this JD3 at a price of like 20 bucks, though I got it for closer to 25. The JD3 is playing in quite competitive waters. So let's see if this thing is up to snuff in this review of the Jade Audio JD3. So you've got quite a nice packaging presentation with the JD3. Instead of the usual cardboard box with the inner and outer sleeves, you actually have a box made of clear plastic, which shows the JD3 in like a little cutout window. I quite like this box actually, and I wish that other brands would also experiment with this kind of box. Of course, there's still a paper wrapping. It shows the Jade Audio and Fiio logos, of course. Like if other brands, OnePlus, try to hide the fact that they're like spin-offs or like child companies, Jade Audio just kind of wears it proudly on their products that, yeah, they're part of Fiio. Not a lot of printing on this paper though, like even in the back, it's just some logos and basic text, not even like any real specifications on here actually. So opening the top lid, and I guess removing the wrapping paper, you are presented with the JD3 in their plastic cutout, as well as the accessories below. And yeah, about those accessories, what you get is pretty sparse. Basically, you get these clear ear tips. They kind of remind me of like the SpinFit CP145, but without the spinning mechanism. They have like a slightly thicker silicone stock, but are still soft to feel, as well as being decently comfortable in the ear. You get like extra small, medium, and large sizes, with the medium size pre-installed in the JD3. And then, as per usual, you get the warranty card. There's really not much in the way of instructions on here. It's printed in, as you can see, Chinese and English. It's basically just like after sales information, but it's fine though, because I mean these are just normal earphones. I don't think you'll need instructions for that. Now here's the unusual part. So if you've watched other older reviews of this product, or if you have seen like the standard set of accessories usually included with Chi-Fi IMs, you will notice that the JD3 lacks a carrying pouch. And I even remember the marketing material included a carrying pouch before it was changed on most stores in Fiio/Jade Audio's marketing. Now, I don't know if this is a last-minute adjustment or something, but do consider that other reviews do have them. I'm not going to say too much about this situation on this review, but you can see more of what I have discovered in some links in the info card and description. I implore you to go there, and if anyone has more information, I'm all ears. But whether intentionally or unintentionally, the lack of a carrying pouch in this package is a minus for me, as the JD3 essentially has nothing but their ear tips, and that's it. You have to remember that I reviewed the Fiio Poppy at 10 bucks a while back, and they gave you a bunch of stuff as well as a really good hard case for 10 bucks with an IM to go with it. So for Fiio to not even include a carrying pouch here is a big minus for me. And I don't know about other reviewers, but I do consider the unboxing experience and accessories to also be an important part of the entire product. And this lack of a carrying pouch really irks me,
especially in 2022 when there's a lot of good value to go around.
And here are the Jade Audio JD3s. It's by most means a pretty standard looking earphone with just a, like a metal bullet shaped housing. The unique bit here is the back vent design. It's got a very gamery design language. Like the inner grills are painted red and blue to indicate right and left, which is quite intuitive. I like this design. But you would think that with such a vent, the JD3 wouldn't have problems with the suction effect when inserted in your ears. But nope, this is legitimately the first earphone that gives me headaches mere moments after I insert it in my ears. It wears like any standard bullet earphone, but man oh man, the suction effect is just so strong that my eardrums feel like they're itchy and being stretched out, and I get migraines with it on. I legitimately cannot use this thing for more than like 30 minutes at a time because of this. In 2022, like most manufacturers have known to do like front and back venting for their IEMs to avoid this phenomenon. Why the JD3 doesn't have another vent to do this is beyond me. Buyer beware if you have problems with the suction effect created by some earphones. The JD3 is one of the worst offenders. Alright, so going to the cable, it's not a much better ordeal. It's got this smoky color. It's a little thin and reminds me of like those old 2016 era cables that KZ used. It's mostly fine though. It doesn't tangle too hard if you wrap it right, if a little microphonic. And you also get a little Velcro cable strap with the Fiio logo on it, so that's always a nice addition. The mic controls here are also pretty good. Like, it has a 3-button control scheme, so you can control play and pause, as well as your volume. This is very welcomed, and I wish more Chi-Fi IM makers would embrace this kind of mic control instead of the 1-button mic clump that has become quite common. The mic, however, is less desirable. It sounds kind of bloated, like there's a humming in my voice, and it's also a bit muddy. This mic is going to be mostly fine for a quick phone call, but don't expect much more from this. Yeah, the JD3 has a fixed sound, which the stuff with like AK DACs, like the DX150, pushes the warmth just a little too far. So I'm going to be opting for the V20 to pair with the JD3. And if you worry about power, don't worry, the JD3 can be easily driven with most sources. As for ear tips, I will be opting for the KZ Starline ear tips. It would seem that their shape and the grooves on top of the tip kind of help alleviate a little bit of the suction effect problem, though not by much. But, with all that out of the way, let's get into the sound of the Jade Audio JD3. Yeah, the JD3 has a thick sound. I emphasize a thick sound, not a warm and lush sound. Think a slightly refined, somewhat less dark Tanchijim Tanya, and that's the sound of the JD3. But I don't know, the entire thing is just kind of underwhelming. Starting with the bass. So Fiio did get the bass of the JD3 to be quite powerful. It's thick and meaty, and the bass texture is somewhat solid and firm rather than soft, also being well defined for what it is. But the slam and impact is still a little anemic somehow. It just doesn't hit hard, but rather spreads the bass rumble out to the whole song, oftentimes encroaching too much onto the mids and the highs. Bass detail is a little better than expected for the price range, but nothing to write home about. If you want a very lingering, ever-present bass presentation, then the JD3 might be for you.
but personally I find it a little too pervasive. Now going to the mids. The mid-range of the JD3 is an overall smooth and warm presentation. It's got a semi-thick lower mid-range implementation, which I do like, but it often gets buried under the bass. The high mids are decently prevalent, though it presents some overly aggressive vocals, which can sometimes polarize a song and makes it feel like a poor attempt to compensate for the overstayed bass. Not to mention, this mid-range is plagued with like poor separation, which blends a lot of details and tends to soften musical textures. So you end up, getting like a somewhat muddy but also shouty vocal presentation that lacks like sharpness and definition. The low mids, the JD3 did alright, but the high mids, they need some tweaking for sure. The treble of the JD3 is so close to falling into the it's impressive but not fatiguing territory, but then it still descended into the pitfalls of being just dull enough to make the sound a bit muddy at times. On some songs, the treble does a decent job at fleshing out the upper registers of music, but in some others it lacks the needed air and clarity. Plus the suction effect, as I had described before, also makes the overall sound signature quite blunted. So the soundstage of the JD3 is a little bit below average for me. The bass, it tends to pull up into a mass near the center of my head, but the mids and highs have an okay amount of width and space. Soundstage height is not really existent, unfortunately. And then the technical ability of the JD3 is another meh. Its separation fails to impress, especially at its price, when even competitors like Blon are doing at least alright. The resolution and detail retrieval is also a bit of a letdown. Macro details are portrayed with decent accuracy, if a little thickened up, but micro details tend to be blurred or just flat out not there. Overall, the JD3 presents a mediocre, if not a little underperforming technical ability that only barely competes, or at times kind of falling behind the competition. Now, between the Jade Audio JD3 and the Tanchijim Tanya, for build quality, the JD3 and the Tanya seem to match each other using similar materials, with the Tanya using a bit more plastic than the JD3, but edges out in that it actually gives you a pouch in the accessories. In terms of sound though, yeah, like I said before, the JD3 is like a marginal improvement on the Tanya. Taking the Tanya's sound to its maybe not logical conclusion, but patching up some of the Tanya's weaknesses as best as it can. The bass of the JD3 is thick, but it doesn't messily insert itself into the other frequencies as much as the Tanya. The mids of the JD3, whilst warm and slightly overreaching, beats out the subdued, veiled, and kind of muffled presentation of the Tanya. As for the highs, the JD3 barely edges out the Tanya in that where the Tanya just lacks any sense of clarity and air, the JD3 sometimes manages to not sound muddy. Yes, pick the JD3 over the Tanya, but realistically, you shouldn't even bother with these two. For between like the Jade Audio JD3 and the Blon VL03, I guess the JD3 edges out the Blon 03 with a more conventional fit. Its cable is not as bad as the BL3 stock cable, which makes people swap it out all the time. However, even the BL3 edges out in accessories, giving you a carrying pouch, your sets of tips, along with a rip-off SpinFit CP500, versus the JD3's nothing except a pack of ear tips. And for sound, the BL3 presents a much better showing. Its bass is enveloping, it plays loose and maybe a little slow, but it's still more soothing than a JD3's bass, which, you know, doesn't have the sort of good impact that I hear from the BL3. The mids of the BL3 also stay in their lane, but they aren't as overshadowed by the bass as the JD3's. And yeah, the Blon doesn't have great top end extension, but it hides it better than the JD3, which is like hit and miss. So I guess you can chalk up the highest of preference here, I guess. But yeah, definitely I'ma pick the Blon BL3 over the JD3. The once king of the budget hi-fi range is still decently competitive in 2022, and it can still beat the JD3 handily. So, at the end of the day, besides the nice mic clump, the bass, and the fact that it's a better Tanya, I don't see much reason to pick the Jade Audio JD3. I mean, you're definitely not gonna pick this thing for its abundance of accessories, that's for sure. And then you have to remember that this is the first in all of my earphones that legit gives me headaches. So much so that I can't use it for more than like 30 minutes. Of course, you might fare better and maybe your ears don't have this problem. And maybe it's just my ears, but still, something to take note of. But despite all of my criticism, I don't think the JD3 is bad. It's just a mediocre product. I think Fiio just wanted to have their toes dipped into the ultra budget segment, and the JD3 was what they could throw together to make it happen. It's the college student equivalent of getting like a B- just so they can say that they completed the course, shrugging it off and going on with their day. And, you know, with the omission of using a carrying pouch, I just cannot recommend the Jade Audio JD3, especially in the busy and very competitive sub $50 market. Yep, we've reached the end of yet another review. As usual, I will leave the links to the music I use in the description, and of course, please check the info cards in the description for more info on this whole carrying pouch situation. I will also leave links to my Patreon where you can donate to me if you want to see more reviews, if you want to see, you know, if you want me to get the money to buy the stuff to bring in for review. That's where you can support me. Shoutouts to 78 Dragon for being my first tier 2 subscriber. Thank you so much, and I will continue to produce much more content. Stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for the contributions. Of course, with tier 2 you can get access to the script that I use. But yeah, otherwise, you know, like the video if you like it, comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or any ideas you want to pass on. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of this. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. This is Lumerion, signing off.